Hi everyone, welcome to a Mindvalley Masterclass with Neale Donald Walsch. So I can't express to you guys how long I've waited to be able to sit here next to this amazing, handsome, godlike looking man. Because Neale has had one of the most profound influences. That's what happens when you talk to God too much. So in all seriousness, Neale, before we begin, I would love to just share with the audience why. For the last couple of years, you've heard me say that Neale's book, Conversations with God, has been one of the books which has had the biggest influence in my life. That cool?
Wouldn't want you to lie about it, so go ahead and say that.
Awesome. I just wanted them people there to hear your voice. What I love about this guy is that he doesn't take anything seriously. But definitely take this interview seriously because this is going to be some profound stuff. Okay, now, what happened was in 1998, I was on a camping trip I was a student at the University of Michigan. I was on a camping trip in Colorado, and this girl across the campfire, fellow student, handed me this book, and she said, "Vishen, you got to read this book, Conversations with God, Part 1. Now, I kind of had a crush on her, because I would never have read a book with the word God in the title. I thought all such books were preachy, they make you feel guilty about life, and they set you on for these ridiculous ideas that I felt didn't belong in the modern age. But because I had a crush on this girl, I decided to read the book, so at least we had something to talk about the rest of that camping trip. So I read the first chapter, hardly paying attention, but little glimmers of wisdom would come to me. So I read the second chapter and the third chapter. And the next thing I know, I've read Conversations with God, book 1, then book 2, then book 3. And the next thing I know, I have this guy on Amazon. I'm following his Amazon page. I'm waiting for every new book to come out of this man. And I'm reading every single Neale Donald Walsch book. And the reason for that is because these books, while they were coming from you, Neale, they felt like they were coming from within me. When you read these Conversations with God books, it feels as if you are stumbling upon your own truth. That's why these books are so incredible. And those of you who have read the CWG book series, you know what I'm talking about, right? And these books ultimately influence who I became in life. I've been reading them now for 19 years. They influence Mindvalley. They influence a lot of the projects that we take on. We are interviewing Neale right now here in Barcelona, where Mindvalley is starting a new university. And I can say that a lot of the experiments in consciousness that we are bringing into Mindvalley U were inspired by Conversations with God, book 2 and book 3, where Neale talks about the future functioning of planet Earth. So I simply wanted to thank you and to recognize you for the vast impact you've had in my life. Okay, now that said, let me get on to the formal bio. You've heard this before, so you can daydream and not pay attention. Neale basically has written books which have touched 20 to 25 million lives. His books have sold 15 million copies. But you know why I say 20 to 25? It's because Conversation with God books get passed on from friend to friend, from father to son, from mother to daughter. They get passed on. And so even though 15 million books have been sold, perhaps 20 to 25 million people have read these books. The first CWG book, and Neale's going to tell you that story in a moment, stayed on the New York Times list for 150 weeks from the time it first came out. It became extraordinary in terms of how people fell in love with this work and wanted to pass it on across the world. Neale has thus so far written 33 books, translated into, get this, 37 languages. I've attended Neale Donald Walsch seminars in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, in Ashland, Oregon, here in Barcelona, Spain. Neale has a massive fan following wherever he goes. And so, really excited to have you with us, Neale, on Mindvalley.
Thank you, Vishen. I'm glad to be here. I feel a little humbled. It's tough when I hear you're very sweet to make an introduction like that, but I don't want to feel falsely modest, I promise you, but I don't think I had anything to do with this. I just feel like an innocent bystander to whom a lot of things have happened. And I'm just watching the passing parade, watching it all go by. And trying very, very hard to live up to what's been said, what's been given to all of us in this material, and to not dishonor it. My biggest challenge is when I wake up every day, don't dishonor the material. So I try very hard to step into the living of what I've been offered. But I'm real clear that I didn't say a word here. I mean, all I did was ask the same questions that anybody else would ask, which is, by the way, the why so many people feel that it's coming from them, because I just asked the same questions that everybody else in the world would ask. Simple, ordinary, everyday questions. And when people read my questions, they've written me letters telling me, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask next. It's exactly what I was wondering about. So all I did, Vishen, was, there's a wonderful playwright named James Thurber who created a character for the Broadway stage called Everyman. And it's widely known in the theater world as James Thurber's Everyman. I turned out to be James Thurber's Everyman. I just turned out to be every person, every man and woman and child who's ever had a question that they'd like to ask God and a question about life. And I received some interesting and wonderful answers, but they're not my answers. It's not my mind bringing it through, so I feel very humble and I feel very nervous every day of my life about living up to what's come through. So I'm doing my best. And that's kind of why I don't take anything seriously, and I make fun and I try to lighten up, because if I took myself seriously, guys, we'd be in trouble.
And I love the fact that you say that, because as soon as you write a book called Conversations with God, I mean,
that's what I'm talking about.
You're playing in that same dimension that so many of the world's organized religions play in. And so many of these organized religions, or the people who teach them, take things way too seriously.
Well, I think the mistake they make is that they consider themselves to be right. That is, there's no margin for error. There's no sense of, well, this is interesting stuff, and maybe it's valuable in your life, but it may not all be exactly correct. The challenge that leaders of the world's religions have, Vishen, is that they have to take themselves seriously in the sense of imagining that what they're sharing and what they're saying is absolutely right. There can be no doubt. Because if they put doubt into the minds of the followers of those religions, the whole construction falls apart. But I'm just the opposite. I say to people everywhere I go, in every interview, in every lecture, in every workshop, in every retreat, in every personal coaching session, I have a thing that I tell everybody. I could be right, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong about all of this. So you need to go within. You need to look inside. You need to go deeply in your interior and see if your soul resonates and harmonizes with what's been brought through. And if it does, fair enough. Then live it, demonstrate it, and walk in your life through it. But if it doesn't, if anything that you see there or that you hear me say does not resonate with you, throw it out. For God's sake, and I mean for God's sake, don't take me seriously.
And that applies to this masterclass that you're going to be watching as well. So we're going to be talking about awakening the species. After Neale wrote the first 3 Conversations with God book, where he's having a conversation with God, CWG 1, 2, and 3, it's what fans call it. It was 19 years later. So in those 19 years, Neale wrote many other amazing books. I think Home with God is one of my favorite. But it was 19 years later that Neale started having these rich, detailed conversations with God again. And CWG Book 4 emerged less than a year ago. And that Book 4 title is called Conversations with God, Book 4, Awaken the Species. And Neale, why, before you talk about Awaken the Species and why that book is so significant, and you guys we're gonna be discussing that topic over here, I'd love for you to share the story of how Conversations with God came to be, because it's a beautiful story. It's been turned into a film, a really beautiful movie. But what is astonishing about it is Neale wrote that first book while being homeless and really down on his luck.
Well, what happened is that everything in my life was falling apart, Vishen. My health was going rapidly downhill, one thing after the other. I had some heart issues. I've had cardiac issues all of my life, but I had other health issues as well, peripheral polyneuropathy, other conditions. We all have our story, but that was part of my story. It wouldn't have been so bad if that's all there was. But at the same time, my career had reached a dead end. I couldn't seem to get on track. I couldn't seem to get to go where I was trying to go. And so I had, I was stuck in my career and going nowhere, and I could see myself heading into a dead end. So I had health issues and career issues at the same time. Even that would have been, manageable. But at the same time as all of that, I had relationship problems as well. That my relationship with my significant other, who's a dear, dear person and a wonderful woman, I was meeting challenges in that area every day of my life. So nothing in my life was working. I was being really hit with the triple whammy, I often call it. Relationship, career, health, all at the same time. And I just threw up my hands at one point. And as if this weren't bad enough, I had an automobile accident in which I broke my neck.
No.
And it wasn't a hairline fracture, it was a 3/4 inch avulsion fracture of the 7th cervical vertebrae posteriorly. In other words, the fracture was large enough to put a pencil through, not a hairline fracture. So of course I was immobilized, and they gave me a collar that I had to wear for the next 2 years, and I was told that I wasn't to do anything, I wasn't even allowed to lift a half gallon of milk. See, too much pressure, I could hurt myself again, re-injure myself. So I was immobile for a couple of years, going to physical therapy every day. And then, get a load of this, as if that wasn't bad enough, I was staying with a friend. I had no place to live. I had run out of money. I couldn't work anymore. I was totally out of cash. I was staying with a friend on their couch surfing, as it were. I go outside the next morning and my car is stolen. It's gone from the street. Now you know that life has really got it in for you when all this stuff happens at once. And I laugh at it now. I remember the moment when I went outside and the car was gone. I literally fell to my knees on the sidewalk, crying out to the sky. I know passersby must have thought, he's on something, what's the matter? But I was calling out to God, all right, what do you want from me? What have I done to deserve a life of such continuing struggle? If somebody tell me the rules, I'll play, I swear, I'll play. Just give me the rule book. Tell me how it works. And after you give me the rule book, don't change them, because it felt to me that the rules were changing every day. First it was okay, then it was not okay. Then it was not okay, then it was okay. And I was just like, whatever. And that's the space I was in, Vishen, when I sat down finally in the middle of the night. And I took out a yellow legal pad one night. It was 4:23 in the morning. And I wrote a very angry letter to God. What do you need here? Just give me the formula, for God's sake. It can't be this difficult. It wasn't meant to be this difficult. Or was it? So I heard a voice over my right shoulder, a very calm, gentle voice. And I heard that voice in the room. It was actually physically in the room. Neale, do you really want answers to all of these questions? Or are you just venting, just getting it off your chest? And of course I turned around, there was no one there, and I thought, oh great, on top of everything else, I'm losing my mind. I'm having hallucinations. There's nobody here. But strangely, just at that moment when I thought I had totally and completely lost it, I was overcome with a sense of peace, tranquility, serenity, and calmness, inner calm that I'd never experienced before in my whole life, at that level ever. And it felt as if all the anger, all the terror, all the fear, all the upset, all the frustration, it felt as if every ounce of negative energy that I had stored up had just been drained and just released from me. And I sat there and I began to weep. I wasn't crying, you know, racked with tears, just the soft, silent weeping of a person who has found pure joy. So I said to myself, okay, I really am getting it off my chest. I really am venting. But you know what? If you've got answers, I really would like to know what they are. And with that, it felt as if there was a download. It felt, the experience was as if something just went, and suddenly I was downloaded with answers to the questions I had asked. So I had the yellow legal pad in front of me, and I began writing what I was receiving, if I could put it that way. And I wrote down things, and I'm really clear that it wasn't stuff that I had remembered from a previous time in my life or had been taught when I was a child, because what I was receiving in this strange and interesting way included material or information I had never heard of before, never even dreamt of. And I remember vividly remembering that, or thinking that, when I received the message, there's no such thing as the 10 Commandments, I literally dropped the pen. Wait a minute. Am I trafficking with the devil? Who would bring me that message? There's no such thing as the 10 Commandments. And when I asked God about all of that, she said, Neale, you've got me all wrong. You've got me all wrong. The whole world has got me all wrong. You guys just don't understand. So I said, well, then help us. But you know, the problem was this, not to make it God's fault, but here's the problem. Have you ever tried to explain trigonometry or advanced mathematics to a 5-year-old? Just can't comprehend it. So the reason that what is accurate about God, about divinity, and about life hasn't been more clear is not that we're not willing, we simply haven't really been ready or able. Just exiting, just leaving the infancy, our species, just emerging from its infancy, just now really gathering sufficient understanding and sufficient maturity as a species to begin to consider, wow, maybe there's something here that we didn't understand, the understanding of which would change everything. And so suddenly now, Vishen, humanity is open where we weren't open before, and ready where we weren't ready before, and able where we were not able before to receive information that seems to violate every prior notion we ever had about God and about life.
Because these books are challenging for some, because these books dispel dogma. I mean, I think if you'd written these books maybe 10 or 20 years earlier, the world probably would not have been ready.
There's no question. Not only would the world not have been ready, but they would never would have even been published. Nobody would have published them.
Very true. And they fundamentally change people's ideas of religion. And again, whatever religion you have, we completely respect that. Religion can be a beautiful thing.
May I comment on that?
Yes.
Just quickly? Because I want to make it very clear that what I am saying and what the books have said has nothing to do with making religions wrong. You're absolutely correct on that. This is not about saying that religions are wrong. This is about making it clear that religions are simply incomplete. They just don't have all of the data. But what they do have, what they have given us, is wonderful stuff, just as you've said. Marvelous principles to live by, incredible truth, enormous wisdom contained in all of the world's great religions, which is why they've lasted so long. But not quite all of the data. So we are like, we meaning humanity, human beings are like little children who have learned to add and subtract, and they think that's all there is to mathematics. But there's more. There's multiplication, there's long division, there's algebra, there's geometry, there's trigonometry, there are advanced mathematics. There are ways to solve the problems that are much faster, much more efficient, much more complete ways to solve the problems than simply adding and subtracting with an abacus, trying to solve advanced mathematical problems. So I was given that simile. God said, look, it's not that religions are wrong. They're simply at the first step of understanding. Are you willing to go to step number 2? Are you willing to consider that there may be something that we don't fully understand here, the understanding of which could change everything? That becomes the central question facing humanity. So this is not about making religions wrong. It's just about candidly and lovingly and gratefully saying to those religions, thank you for what you've given us. Could you now give us permission to notice that there may even be more to know on this subject?
So Neale, you wrote book 1, then shortly thereafter book 2 and book 3, and each book looks at life from a different view. Book 1, for example, is about really understanding yourself. Book 1 was so influential for me because book 1 was where I really started to understand how my thoughts could shape reality at a level where I had never understood before. Book 2, you spoke about society. In book 3, you spoke about, book 3, I'd love for you to explain it in your words. It goes in a whole different dimension.
Well, it just talks about the whole cosmology of life. Everything, really the universe and the universal scheme of things. So you're right, the books went from the personal to the regional and national to the global and then to the universal. Right. In a progression that allowed each text to explore grander and grander aspects of the total reality.
And what's remarkable about the books is you discuss politics, you discuss the optimal tax rate. These books are fascinating, but we won't talk about them. It's something I'd encourage you to read. But Neale, why is it, and here's why we're having this conversation, why is it that 19 years after book 3 came out, 19 full years, you decided to write book 4?
Well, I didn't decide to write book 4. I was awakened in the middle of the night at 4:13 in the morning, surprisingly, and I had that feeling, uh-oh, I've had this feeling before. I haven't had this feeling for almost 20 years, but I remember this feeling from 20 years ago. This is a feeling that something wants to come through. I've had conversations with God all the way through those 19 years on a private level, but not that sense of an entire book-length message wants to be shared. But that morning, in early August of 2016, I awoke and I realized that's the same feeling I had back 20 years ago when the last book-length message felt like it had downloaded. And you just feel full. I can't explain it. You just feel so full that you want to just get it out. Like when you see a long-lost friend you haven't seen in 8 or 10 years and you just want to get it all out and share everything that's happened in the past 10 years, that kind of a feeling. So I threw back the covers because I knew that I needed to get right to a keyboard. And I raced to my keyboard and I began just typing whatever was coming to my mind. And what came through was book 4, and I recall saying at the beginning of the dialogue, I thought we were all done with this. I thought we weren't going to be doing any more book-length exchanges. God said, well, there's one more invitation that I have to place before you and before all of humanity. The first books placed before us 2 invitations. Number 1, change the world's mind about God. Change the world's mind about God. Don't have the world eliminate God or get rid of religion, just expand your notion of God and of what religion has to share. Number 2, the second invitation, give people back to themselves. Don't you dare walk by or walk through the life of a single person without making them feel better about themselves, better about who they are, and fully aware of their magnificence and of the wonder of who they are, of the gift they bring just by being in the room. So I was given those 2 invitations. Change the world mind about God, give people back to themselves. And those invitations were given to all the world as well, to all the readers of those books. But now was a third invitation. God's telling me in book 4, I have a final invitation. I said, what could it be? Change the world's mind about God, give people back to themselves, what's left? And God said, awaken the species. Awaken the species. Get out there, you and everyone else who's reading this material, everyone else who's being exposed to these messages in any way, either in book form or electronically or in any way. Use what you've now come to understand. If you have truly expanded and truly explored new possibilities that you hadn't even thought of 20 years ago, if you're reading now there and reading now ready, then for goodness sake, awaken the species. Tell everyone what it is that you now have come to know and understand, because the world is now desperately in need of awakening.
Is there something going on in the world? So this download came to you in the summer of 2016. Is there some shift happening in the world right now that this information is relevant at this point?
Yes, well, it is that shift from infancy to our early adolescence, to our early childhood. It's that shift, and like a 2-year-old who has a temper tantrum, or like 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds who just aren't quite ready yet with all the data that's coming in, so they start to, in their innocence, misbehave. We are in our innocence misbehaving. Look, humanity is not a mean species. We're not a cruel species. We're not an angry species. But sometimes, like little children, sometimes we act mean, we act a little cruel, we act a little angry, because in our youthful embracing of all the data that's coming in, all the stuff we never dreamt of before, we're finding ourselves faced with information that we don't know how to deal with, we don't know how to handle, we don't have the moral underpinnings to handle things. Let me give you an example. What's the moral underpinning to handle cloning? Guys, we're cloning sheep, we're cloning cats, we're cloning animals. That is, we are reproducing mammals without doing it the normal way. We're doing it in a laboratory. Now, why is that significant? I'll tell you why it's significant. We're only years away from cloning people. Cloning human beings. And even right now, we have the capability of using genetic engineering to create human beings that have been produced in the normal way. We can actually work with that tissue in utero and alter everything from the color of one's eyes, to the tendencies, to the habits, to the levels of intelligence, to the characteristics of that emerging human being. But we don't have, guess what? We don't have the moral underpinning. We don't have the spiritual construction that supports where technology is racing ahead in producing a brave new world, as Aldous Huxley called it. So we somehow have to find a way to integrate, and that's what's happening. To answer your question, we are confronting the moment of integration. We either find a way to integrate a new understanding of God, a new understanding of life, a new understanding of ourselves, a grander notion than we might ever have imagined about all of it, and integrate that with where our science and technology and medicine is taking us. Medicine is taking us, Vishen, to a place where within a few more decades or less, we'll be living to 150 or 200 years old. Mark my words. Mm-hmm. I've long passed that stage. I'll be out of here in a few hours after the way this interview is going. But truly, it's going to be nothing to live past 100. Nothing.
Right.
So as we see what medicine, technology, and science is placing before us, we have to have the moral underpinning to support the decisions we're going to be invited to make.
So that reminds me of something you wrote in your book, right? You said if you look at the progression of humanity, if we look at ourselves on the, say, and you map it out to be the length of a football field, we are somewhere on the 2-yard line. Do I remember that correctly?
Yes.
Could you explain that?
We are somewhere on the 2-yard line. You explained it perfectly.
Okay, great.
That's true.
So we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, but that's the blessing.
And you, yes, and you said, and it's not that we are bad or we are primitive. We're just children. In a cosmology of sentient beings, we're just children.
And that's the blessing when you think of it. See, people, when they heard that from me at first, they thought, oh my gosh, what a horrible situation we're in. We're only on the 2-yard line. I said, no, you don't understand. Look how much farther we have to, can you imagine where we'll be when we're just on the 10-yard line,
right,
much less the 50-yard line. This gives you an insight into what we were really meant to be, what we were intended to be. I want to say what human beings were designed to be. We're just barely beginning to realize our potential.
Which opens us up to the idea of HEBs, or highly evolved beings, which is what book 4 is about. How to become a highly evolved being. Can you explain that concept? What is a highly evolved being?
Well, in the book, I was told that there are beings living off of this planet in the cosmos. That's pretty incontrovertible these days. Maybe 25 years ago, somebody could have questioned, no, that's science fiction. That's just, science fiction. Somebody's fanciful idea. But these days, it's no longer science fiction. We now understand that physicists have recently discovered, by the way, they just told us, that our universe is actually 100 times larger than we thought it was. It turns out that our universe is one of a universe of universes. So the possibility of there being absolutely no intelligent life anywhere in the cosmos, the possibility of that being true, are 1 in a cajillion. It's just not possible. Obviously, just mathematically, we know there must be sentient life elsewhere in the universe. Well, there is. And what I was told in book 4 was, you need to now understand, among the new things, among the new information that's being placed in front of us, is the information that we are not alone in the cosmos. Now, why that's significant is not that, woo-woo, there are other people in outer space, but it's more than that. There are highly evolved beings who have advanced in their understanding of who they are and what life is all about, so far that they have now taken it on as their mission to, how would I put it, to nurture and to assist the younger species in the cosmos, ours being one of them. So highly evolved beings, which I have crystallized with the acronym HEBs, H-E-B, highly evolved beings. HEBs in the universe are, I'm told now, and have been for a long time, assisting us. That is, they're bringing us information, insights, awareness, ideas, thoughts, storylines for movies. They're placing it in front of humanity in a wide variety of ways and allowing us to step into tomorrow. One day I'm going to write a book called Stepping into Tomorrow, because that's what they're inviting us to do. And they're inviting us to speed up the process. See, because I want to make this point. Evolution does not have to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 progression. It can be a 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 progression. That is, it can be exponential. So things fold over times 10 every time we move forward. So what highly evolved beings are doing is helping us by placing into human consciousness and into human awareness the thought structures and the conceptualizations that would be required in order for us to support what I've said to you a minute ago, for us to support where our technologies have already taken us. The danger is here. The danger is our technologies are moving forward faster than our cosmology.
Why?
When technology moves forward faster than cosmology, suddenly you're like children playing with matches. Dangerous territory. And that's where we are right now on this planet. Children playing with matches. Bragging how we have nuclear weapons that can be flown by rockets and destroy other countries. World leaders who are actually serious. You think this is out of a comic book, like some villain in a comic book, but actual world leaders who are seriously saying, we have rockets that can destroy your country, and they make movies, animated films of your country being destroyed to place into the consciousness of humanity. So now we have a population that's living between fear and upset and bravado that dangerous place between fear and bravado. Oh, you think you'll be able to take care of me? We'll take care of you before you take care of us. And that's where we are right now. Let's build a wall between us and all the other people of the world so we can protect ourselves. Such thoughts would never have occurred to us in the 1700s or the 1800s or even the 1900s, but now, in the 21st century, we think that's the only thing left for us to do. Surround ourselves with walls, build enough weapons to take care of any possible attack first if it's necessary, and even if we wind up blowing the planet to smithereens, at least we did it in self-defense.
And you're saying that's not how highly evolved beings think?
Oh my goodness, of course not.
Now in book 4, you lay out a number of behaviors or rules. What is it that you call them for highly evolved beings?
Well, they're the differences between how highly evolved beings would respond to life as opposed to how humans who are living in an unawakened state.
What do you call those behaviors?
Yes.
Behaviors of highly evolved beings. How many are there?
Well, there are many, but 16 are listed in the book. I was given in the dialogue, I was given in the book, 16 specific behaviors because I was asking. Of course, I said to God, well, give me an example. What's so different about the way they behave in their life as opposed to how we are behaving? And God said, well, I can give you a list. I said, please. So I got this list of 16, and she said at the end of the list, of course there are many more, but these are probably the most prominent of those behaviors. The vast differences between how you guys behave down there on Earth, because we're a very young species, and how highly evolved beings behave. And the chief one, I said, okay, what's the most important one? This is going to sound so obvious, I'm almost embarrassed to share it, because we're all going to go, no kidding. But the most obvious difference is highly evolved beings have eliminated violence completely and utterly from their civilization. There's no violence of any kind, not even verbal violence, no emotional violence, and certainly no physical violence. They would never even dream of being harming or damaging or injuring on purpose to another, simply to resolve a conflict. We are so primitive on this planet. We have yet to figure out a way to resolve our differences without violence. And if we can't resolve our differences, then we just kill the other person. We'll show you if you can't agree with me and we can't resolve our differences. How about if we just kill you? Just eliminate you from the planet. That way you don't have to worry about resolving differences. We'll just disappear you. And those are the kinds of thoughts that highly evolved beings look at this and say, really?
So let me ask you a question about that.
Really?
So
that's how you're going to solve it? Really?
So Neale, what you just said, I'm thinking some of you are thinking, well, of course, highly evolved beings wouldn't do violence. Yesterday I almost got mugged. And I want to ask you a question, because me and my friend...
I tried as hard as I could. Did you recognize me?
Because me and my friend almost tackled this guy to the ground, right? So I want to ask you if what we were doing was right. But before we go there, one of the reasons we're so excited to bring Neale onto Mindvalley Academy is because we're developing with Neale a new quest. Mindvalley's Quest platform is a learning platform where thousands of students enroll together, and we go through a quest to upgrade some aspect of our life. There are quests for nutrition, quests for losing weight, and in this particular quest, it's a quest over 21 days to help you embody the characteristics and principles and ideas of a highly evolved being. One of the most beautiful things about having a roadmap like this is that when you can see the map, you know where to get to, and you automatically find yourself moving towards awakening faster than if you're pursuing this on your own. But more on that later. Now, you just got me thinking.
Thank God.
Was trying...
For the first time.
I don't think much. So this guy tried to... We were having dinner as a family. My kids were there. And this guy tried to grab my iPhone from the table. Right now, firstly, it was stupid of me to be leaving my iPhone directly on the table. We were eating outdoors in Barcelona. I happened to push him away, and then he went off. But there was a part of me that wanted to tackle him to the ground and have my friends call the cops so he wouldn't do that to other people. right? Would that be counter to being a highly evolved being, tackling this man to the ground and calling the cops? I'm asking because I don't know.
See, everything is contextual. Things happen in context. In a society of highly evolved beings, it never would have happened to begin with. He wouldn't have reached for your phone. If he reached for your phone and you pushed him away, I would probably not go after him and tackle him to stop him from doing it to someone else. I would have stopped him and I would have said, "Hold it, sir. You don't have to run away. Hold it. You don't have to run away. Would you like some money? You want some cash? Are you in such trouble in your life that you actually want to steal my phone? Hold it just a second. I've got 300 euros for you if you'll just stop where you are." And by the way, whether he stopped or not, there would have been a huge message for everybody in the restaurant. Even if he didn't stop, even if he kept on running, everybody in the restaurant would have gone, "Did that guy just offer the potential thief 300 euro to stop running? Giving him a reward to not get away?" And if he did stop, I'd say, "Come on over here, pal, come on. Hey, look, you know what? If things are so tough for you that you have to violate your inner sense of who you are, because I know that deep down inside, like all of us, you're a wonderful person. There are people who love you, people that you love, I'm sure. You're no less wonderful than I am, but you may have had a tougher life, a few tougher breaks that I didn't have. If you feel so desperate in your life that you have to reach over my shoulder and try to grab my property off the table, I'll give it to you. I really need my phone because, you know, all my data is here. But if you want enough money to buy your own phone, and a couple of them, or 2 or 3 if you want, here, look, what do you need? Take it from me. I mean literally, take it from me. You don't need to do this. There are other ways to experience the wonder and the glory of who you are. And if you'll promise to me and give me your deep soul promise that you won't take anyone else's property ever again, I'll double what I just gave you. How about 600 euros? Come on, we'll go to the ATM and we'll get it out of the machine. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not going to report you to the police. I'm going to report you to yourself. I'm going to give you a chance to report in. Who am I really? This guy sees me. This guy sees me as who I really am. That's what I would have done.
Wow. That obviously I have a lot to learn. But I wanted to bring that up because I didn't want people there hearing what you just said about highly evolved beings not practicing violence and go, "Oh, I know that." What I wanted you guys to get a sense of is that to really know that, you are operating in a way that is so counterintuitive to what our societies and our rules and maybe even how we've been brought up to operate.
I got to tell you that I was in one of the third world countries. Frankly, I forgot where I was. I think it was near Machu Picchu. But in any event, I was in a third world country where I was going to give a talk, yes. But on the way there was a little festival, a street festival, where the little artisans, the local people had made little handkerchiefs and you know, little caps and gloves and things that knitted and all these wonderful artifacts, and they were selling them on the street off their table. And so I was traveling with some people who were with me, you know, some companions, and so they were saying, "Oh, look at that, that's beautiful. So how much, how much?" And the lady would say, you know, I'm going to make it up, you know, 20 pesos. And the guy would say, "I'll give you 15. And I said, "Why?" And he was bidding her down. When she said, "Oh, okay, 15 pesos," he said, 10. And he was bidding her down. I said, wait a minute. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What was the original price?" She said, 20 pesos. I said, "I'll give you 40. She looked at me, she said, "What? No, just 20, senor, just 20. I'll give you 40. Okay, 40 pesos. I said, "You take 40? She said, "Yes." "I give you 60. I'm bidding her up. And no matter what she accepted, I doubled it. I bid her up. And the guy next to me thought, this guy's crazy. See, and I thought, what am I doing on this street where I earn more money in a day than she will earn in a year? And I'm trying to get her to come down on her price, a scarf that she took 2 hours or more to make? Come on. Wake up. Stop it. Just stop it.
That's beautiful. I almost, sorry, I'm at a loss for words. Neale, one of the things I really value about you is that the exercises, the ideas that you've put out and suggested us to do, wake us up to who we really are. When I was living in New York, I learned an exercise from you, from one of your books. And it was, I remember judging the homeless people who lived on the streets, right? It was the alcoholic guy. There was the guy who would, randomly yell abuse and foul language. And I would pass them on the way to the subway every day for months. And then I read about this one exercise that you suggested we do. And I'd love for you to share it with the audience here because it was so powerful. And it was called something along the lines of, when you see someone, you would mentally tell yourself, there I go again. Could you talk about that exercise?
Yeah. Well, it was given to me by a wonderful spiritual teacher about 20 years ago. We were walking down the street in the city in which I live, and there was a man, a wino, sitting on the ground, leaning up against the building. He hadn't shaved in months, and he didn't smell all that good, didn't look all that good, and he had a little brown paper bag in which he obviously had a bottle of something, and he was tippling the bottle, and and he was, like you said, shouting obscenities, people going by, oh, and everyone was like, oh, but I looked at him and I said to my friend, there but for the grace of God go I. There but for the grace of God go I. And I thought I was being compassionate and open-minded. And my spiritual friend looked at me and she said, you don't understand anything at all, do you? I said, what? What? I was trying to be compassionate. She said, not there but for the grace of God go you. There because of the grace of God you go. There you go being a wino again. There you go being a thief again. There you go being better than, again. There you go again. She said, don't you realize you're seeing nothing but you everywhere you look? There you go being angry again. There you go being nice again. There you go using foul language again. There you go using elevated language again. There you go being a person you really don't want to be. There you go being the best person you've ever been. Whether you're seeing the negative or the positive side of life, you're not seeing anything except who you actually are, mirrored back to you. So she challenged me, Vision. She said, I want you to go down the street for a half hour a day for the next 30 days. And whatever you see, whatever you're looking at, say that to yourself. There I go again. There I go again being that. There I go again being that. There I go again then being brave. There I go again being a coward. And just until you identify with all of it. And then she gave me a second exercise called the I am exercise. She said, after you do that, I want you to expand your awareness. I want you to say 2 words or 3 words whenever you see anything, not just people, but a tree, a flower, some trash, something pretty or something ugly. I just want you to say these 3 words, I am that. I am that. Until you can identify with whatever you're looking at. I am that. 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 I am. When I was a child, I was taught in catechism class that God said, I am that I am. I said to the priest in catechism class, what does that mean? I am that I am? What the heck does that mean? And I never understood. And then after she gave me this exercise, I realized that because I was saying to this person I was with a few weeks later, I was with someone else, And I was walking down the street and I was saying quietly in my head, I am that, I am that, I am. She said, what are you doing? I said, oh, it's just a little exercise I was given. I'm just saying to myself, I am that, I am that, I am. She said, Neale, you're losing it. You're losing it, man. You're not that, you're you. You're not that, you're you. I said, no, 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 no. I am that, I am. I am that, comma, I am. No, I am that, I am. God was convincing us, I am that, I am. And when I see in everything that I look at a part and an aspect of me, I finally got the truth. And it causes me to relate to the pile of trash, the beautiful flowers in the garden, the tree on the side of the road, the person leaning up against the building drinking out of a bottle, and the beautiful angel as well who walks down the street and makes you catch your breath at the wonder of who she is. It makes you relate to everybody in a totally different way. A way that just simply says, you know what? I love you. I love all of this. What a glorious experience. I love it all. And I refuse to condemn any of it. Judge not, and neither condemn. And raise not your fist to heaven, and curse the darkness not, but be a light unto the darkness, that you might know who you really are. That all those whose lives you touch might know who they really are as well, because you came through their life. Vishen, I was taught and I was told in my conversations with God, make sure you never walk through any human being's life, but that it's made better, because you did. It's really very simple. There's nothing complicated here.
Neale, that's beautiful. A beautiful story. I did that exercise that I learned from you. I walked through the streets of New York. I would mentally tell myself every little thing I saw. The noisy guy on the subway, the guy begging on the street corner, and I would go, there I go again, being noisy and loud and rude on the subway. There I go again, begging while reeking of alcohol. And
see, because we've all begged for something in our life.
And in 30 minutes, I remember I had to go back to my apartment because there were tears streaming down my cheeks. But it fundamentally changed my relationship with the city, with the community, with everyone there. I started to give a damn. And you know, when you live in a place like New York, sometimes you get closed in. I started to actually give a damn. That exercise changed my life. I never disrespected homeless people again. I never judged them again. And that was what was so powerful about the exercise. I share that because in the Mindvalley quest that we're developing with Neale, you don't just learn about these behaviors and these characters of highly evolved beings. You have to go out there and do these exercises. And I want to state, it is one of the toughest programs we've ever developed at Mindvalley. It is a challenge. It is a tough program because you are going to be going out into the world and you will have to think and relate in a fundamentally different way from what your society, your education, maybe even your religion said you need to do. It is not going to be easy. But in 21 days, dramatic shifts will happen, not just for yourself, but for every single life that you encounter on this planet. So let's do a quick recap. You've learned about the concept of HEBs, highly evolved beings. You've learned that even despite a lot of personal growth, someone like me, I've read maybe hundreds of books, I make these wrong decisions. I almost tackled that mugger rather than truly, as Neale, you said, behave like a highly evolved being.
There's no such thing as a wrong decision. You haven't made a wrong decision in your entire life. If you had jumped up and tackled the mugger, that would not have been a wrong decision. There's no such thing as right and wrong. There's only what works and what does not work, given what it is you're trying to do. But right and wrong don't exist in the kingdom of God. And I don't want any of you who who are moving through your life to suddenly become worried that you're making a wrong decision or making a wrong choice. There's no wrong way to do anything. There's only what's effective. There's only what works and what does not work, given what it is you're trying to do. The reason that I suggested stopping that mugger and offering him, whatever help he could use, is because I'm clear what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get him caught by the police and thrown into jail for 60 days and make his life even worse. I'm trying to make his life better. So when I know what I'm trying to do, my next action arises spontaneously, quite spontaneously inside of me. So my suggestion as a tool for you to move forward is to get clear. What are you trying to do broadly in your whole life? And then reduce it down to this year, this month, this week, this day, this hour, and right now, right this minute. Ask yourself the same question as you move through life. Wait a minute, what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to do here? What am I doing here? When you get clear on what you're doing in each moment of your life and why you're doing it, your actions will arise spontaneously, without planning and without judgment and without making yourself right or wrong. That's my observation.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That was another key lesson.
I could be wrong about all of this. I don't know. It's just what feels to me. There's a magic question. People often ask me, Neale, give me a tool, give me a tool. Do you have any tools you can give me so that I can really move into this place of selecting myself to be a model for others? Here's a tool. Life's magic question. Before you make a decision to do anything, before you decide anything big like to move house or where will I work or who should I marry or who should I make love with or a fairly major decision in your life or a small decision, what shirt should I wear, what food should I eat, how shall I comb my hair, whether it's a big decision or a small decision, ask yourself life's magic question. What does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? Oh, I see. And what does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? As you're going into the movie theater, what does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? As you're sitting down in the restaurant ready to eat your meal, what does this have to do, the food that I'm eating, with the agenda of my soul and what I ordered off the menu? If you aren't clear what it has to do with the agenda of your soul, don't do it. And if you're not clear what the agenda of your soul is, get clear on that. Now, the agenda of, I'm sorry, I'm starting to preach. I should just shut up.
No, please continue. You can't leave us hanging there.
Well, the agenda of the soul is the same for everyone. It's not like your agenda is to play first base for the New York Yankees and my agenda is to be the first chair violinist for the Philharmonic Orchestra. It's not like a career choice. God is not a career counselor. The agenda of the soul is the same for every living being on the planet, as I understand it. And that agenda is this: to use each golden moment of now to make an extraordinary decision, to announce and declare, express and fulfill, become and experience the next grandest version of the greatest vision you ever held about who you are. The agenda of the soul is to recreate yourself anew in every moment in the next grandest version of the greatest vision you ever held about who you are. If you were to serve that agenda with every word, every thought, every announcement, every decision, every action, your life would suddenly turn into an ongoing, continuing, and never-ending miracle. I like to use the example, we're all adults here, of people who are enjoying a romantic moment. You're having a romantic liaison with someone to whom you feel very close. Why are you there? To get something or to receive something? To take something or to give something? What is it that you're really up to? Is it just about sexuality? Is it just about physical pleasure? I mean, it's okay if that's part of it, but is that the largest reason? Is that the whole purpose of it? Or is there something larger going on, something greater happening? And if you were to have a romantic interlude with your beloved person, And if you said to yourself, I'm choosing to recreate myself anew in the next grandest version of the greatest vision I ever held about who I am, in this context, in this moment, in love expressed in this wonderful physical way, how would that impact the moment you're having with your beloved partner? Do you think it would change in any way the quality you're bringing to that moment? I promise you it would. Trust me on this.
I love that phrase, to recreate yourself anew into the next grandest version of the greatest vision you've ever had for yourself.
Yeah, those words were given to me by God when I raised my hands in despair 25 years ago. What is going on? What's the point of all this? Is it just the same experience over and over again? Trying to get out of one jam after another, trying to get out of one spot? What is going on? And God made it very clear to me. Look, I'm sending you nothing but angels. It was one of the greatest pieces of information I ever got from God. He said to me, Neale, I have sent you nothing but angels. And they're going to come into your life, and they're going to place before you exactly the situation and circumstances. You may judge it, judge not, and neither condemn. They're going to place before you the exact and perfect set of circumstances and situations, allowing you to be who you really are at the next level up, and the next level up, and the next level up, to never be satisfied with yesterday's decision. I'm going to write a book one day, Never Be Satisfied with Yesterday's Decision.
Let's talk about that for a moment. You were talking about the qualities of highly evolved beings, right? And one of the most profound ideas I've learned from you, from your children's book actually, The Little Soul and the Sun, is that line, I've sent you nothing but angels. I'd love for you to explore that topic a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
I mean that every person who's come into your life, and for that matter, every situation that has arisen by any manner or means, has been placed before us as a gift from heaven. The purpose being to allow us to enter a contextual field, to notice and to express, to experience, to declare, to become and to fulfill our grandest notion of who we really are. I mean by that in the absence of what you are not, what you are is not. If I'm the light, I can't experience myself as the light unless I'm in the darkness, because the darkness is what I'm not. But in the absence of what I'm not, that is, in the absence of darkness, I can't be what I am. That's true not just of dark and light, but so-called good and so-called evil, loving and not so loving, whatever it is. So I have sent you nothing but angels means that God has sent us, or life, if you please, has produced for us. Our souls are collaborating together, all souls collaborating, co-jointly producing the exact set of circumstances, situations, and moments designed to provide us a platform on which we can produce the greatest play ever known. Shakespeare had it right. All the world's a stage, and the people but the players. All the men and women simply having their various roles, they're making their entrances and their exits, and each person in their time playing many parts.
So, is what you're saying then that the guy who at one point rear-ended you, causing you to have that massive fracture on your neck, then the guy who stole your car, causing you to get down on your knees and exclaim to God, what is the point of all this all? All of those were angels.
So was the guy reaching for your cell phone.
Right.
Hello?
Because
an angel reaching for your cell phone, giving you a chance to decide, who am I in relationship to this guy wanting to steal my phone? Who am I? And what is my next grandest notion with regard to that? And then we bless him. We don't curse him. We don't follow him as he's running away and curse at him. We actually bless him. Even if he gets away and doesn't turn back, we say, you know what? Bless you, bless you. As somebody much more eloquent than I will ever be once said very clearly, bless, bless, bless your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. And when a man slaps you on the right cheek, turn and offer your left. And when a man asks you for your coat, give him your shirt as well. And when a man asks you to walk 1 mile with him, go with him twain. This is not New Age philosophy. We've been given these answers thousands of times over thousands of years. Is it time for us to listen?
Thank you, Neale. Normally at this point of a masterclass, I do a recap of all the points that an author or our guest has said. I can't even do a recap here because there is, I'm in a different state right now. I'm trying my best not to have tears stream down my cheek as I'm interviewing you. But I think you guys, each of you would have taken something different from this. There was the there I go again exercise. There was the idea of you having been sent nothing but angels. The idea of humanity being on just a 2-yard line, but that being okay because we're kids, you know, and there's nothing wrong with being a kid.
And look at the potential. Look at where we have to go. Oh my gosh, this is what's ahead of us? Wow. If that's not something to celebrate, then what is?
And that there is this vision ahead of us, the idea of the highly evolved being. And we want to invite you guys to go on a journey with us, to explore these ideas far, far, far deeper than just this 1-hour session. On a daily basis, to join a group of students here at Mindvalley, with Neale guiding you, over 21 days, and every day for under 20 minutes, so it's very manageable, 20 minutes a day, you will be given a beautiful piece of wisdom that will unfold for you one of the, what do you call it, characteristics or behaviors of a highly evolved being, and then an exercise that you need to do. And this exercise will be akin to the exercise I spoke about, where I had to roam the street of New York for half an hour. And I'm going to say that they're not all easy. Some of them are going to take a bit of a challenge. I just saw Neale teach over 100 people here in Barcelona for 3 days straight. He was giving people these exercises. And these exercises were really interesting. They fundamentally shift you. For the days after that, I was interacting with some of these people, and they were behaving in different ways. So anyway, that invite is open for you. I hope you enjoyed this session, this masterclass. Feel free to share it with friends. And if any of you want to learn about Mindvalley's Quest with Neale, it's going to be starting on a specific date, because how we organize this is that we all go into this together. Thousands of students start together on the same date, and it runs for 21 days. And we're all connected through our iPads, our apps, our computers, whatever device you use, in a community, because there's going to be so much of connecting and discussion that you're going to want to do day by day by day as people share their stories. I can't wait to get started, and we invite you to check it out. And like everything in Mindvalley, we want this to work for you. So you can actually sign up for this. You can enroll. You can do it for 10 days. And if you feel this isn't for you, shoot one email to our award-winning customer support team at support@mindvalley.com and get a full refund. You can try it out for free for 10 days. Enroll below. And as a special thank you for joining us for the last 1 hour, if you enroll on this page, don't close this page. You can enroll anytime in the next couple of days on Mindvalley. But on this particular page, a little extra discount should have showed up because you just invested an hour with us. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Neale, thank you so much. Are there any closing words you'd like to say?
Your life is not about you. I asked God, what is the most important single sentence that you want me to understand and to embrace? And she said, I'll give it to you in just a few words. Your life is not about you. It's about everyone else whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. If you take nothing from this particular hour we've just spent together, then that message, that's all you'll need to transform your experience of who you are and to touch everyone else in life in a way that will allow them to begin to experience who they are. So remember that always. Your life has nothing to do with you. It's about everyone else whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. I could, of course, be wrong about all of that. But I don't think so.
Thank you, Neale. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. All the information you need on the Neale Donald Walsch quest with Mindvalley is available below this video. I can't wait to see you in this program.